call the March regular meeting of the Westonka School Board to order. If everybody would rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chair moves for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, March 19th, Facilities Committee meeting, 7 o'clock, right here in this room. April 3rd, Finance Committee meeting. And April 7th, Policy Committee meeting at 5:15 in Conference Room A, and then the regular school board meeting. And then at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Peterson up to the podium for a share of success.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here once again to talk about really Cooper Row, but I do want to touch base on a couple other things that aren't going to be on the slide. Learned today that our math league team placed 4th in state, which is just outstanding. Point out of first, 2 points out of second, and 4 points away from winning the whole thing. So they had great success. DECA, we got a lot of kids going to internationals. We should be seeing some stuff coming through for that. We just finished up our winter season on Saturday with our boys basketball team losing at Benil, but it was a really fun game, great atmosphere. And today we started spring sports, and some of our teams were outside today on March 10th, which is awesome. So I'm going to call Cooper Rowe to come on up. Cooper is the son of Matt and Melanie Rowe, and y'all should remember Cooper. This is his 3rd year in a row attending a school board meeting. You may recall a couple of years ago he won the Pan Am Games. Last year he won his first state championship at 152 pounds in Class AA, and this year he repeated at 160 pounds. Was able to watch Cooper wrestle a few matches and at the state tournament, and it's really impressive to watch Cooper. He's methodical, and he just takes care of business, and it's just really fun. The state when the state tournament gets to the championship round, they turn the lights off in the Excel Energy Center. They have 4 mats. We'll see that here in a second. 4 mats laid out for the single, double, AAA state championships, as well as a mat for the girls. And all 4 mats go at the same time, essentially at all the same weights. The girls have they have fewer weight classes than the boys do, but they essentially stay on schedule. So Cooper, I'm going to have you tell the story, because I might have it wrong, but I believe in Cooper's first match, I think he pinned a young man in 33 seconds or 35 seconds, and I think that fellow wrestled back and still placed. Is that accurate, or did he lose?
The second kid I did.
Okay, so I'll let Cooper tell the story, but really, really impressive. So, but here's kind of just the...
Jeff, shut off that light over there. You can't see the screen.
You bet.
There you go, thank you.
So you can see all 4 mats here. This match went 6 minutes, so we're not going to play the whole 6 minutes. But just kind of the very end here, and it was a little bit of a scramble at the end. Cooper made me nervous. And this year they changed the point totals for wrestling. A takedown used to be worth 2, now it's worth 3. And so I believe Coop was up late in the match, 5-2, and then there was a little bit of a scramble, and Coop came out on top here. So this is just kind of the ending.
Where was your opponent from?
Hutchinson.
And you wrestled him already this?
Yeah, I wrestled him last year. He's one of my friends, so.
Yeah.
I wrestled him quite a bit.
Why don't you come up here and just tell a little bit about it?
Yeah, as Jeff said, my first match I beat the kid in like 37 seconds. He didn't end up placing. Second match I beat the kid in the second period like 18-0. And he ended up taking third in the tournament. And then the third kid I wrestled, I beat. He was one of my friends also. We wrestle all the time. I beat him 11-0, and he took fourth. And then this is also one of my friends. I wrestled the finals. I beat 8-2, and he got second, of course. So yeah, it's pretty fun event.
So, yeah, so Coop, I went in and counted today. Cooper, we've had 29 state titles. Cooper's won the 28th and 29th. And as you know, we've, in the history of our program, we've had 2 3-time state champions. No pressure on Coop, but it would be really awesome to have him back here a year from about today, celebrating the same thing. Cooper is already committed to the Gophers.
Yeah.
Yep, he's already committed, and as he walks around and shakes your hand, I just say, just be careful. So, congratulations. Cooper.
Thank you.
Jeff, why does the
Thank
mat say
you.
Laverne on the map?
Thank you.
So,
Excellent job.
so different schools bring their mats to the Excel Energy Center.
Thank you.
And so in the before the finals, they have 8 mats set up in the Excel Energy Center. And then for the finals, they pull 4 of them out. So these are mats that were just brought from other schools, because the state tournament, or the state high school league doesn't have 8 wrestling mats. So anyways, I really appreciate you guys letting us recognize Cooper, and congratulations. And look forward to being here and celebrating with you again some other accomplishments. So.
As a family, we appreciate that you take time out of your night just to come here. It's fun to showcase our students that see this success. It's taken a lot of hard work by commitment by all of you, but Cooper, to keep that going, to get to that position and then do it back-to-back years is an incredible honor. And sometimes you don't realize it in the moment, but you're in a very special group now that can say back-to-back. And I know your sights are on bigger things, but that's really something right there, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Pretty soon to be able to say three-peat.
No pressure.
Yeah.
No. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Do any members of the public wish to address the board? Not, we'll move on to the student rep report. Mason, you're up.
Alright, hello everyone. We have a good amount of stuff going on, or that's been going on in the past couple of weeks. So to start it off with the Student Senate update. So Stuff the Bus Drive, that's going on this week. If you see kids standing outside holding signs, kind of marketing for it, that's what we're doing for that, and that's for the Westonka food shelf. And then as well, I believe it was last Friday, we did some ribbon making for the Lacano family to show just support. We made some purple ribbons, gave them out at lunch, stuff like that. For the Stuff the Bus prizes, we have a lot of different prizes for that, being as we need a lot of kids to donate, and the easiest way is by doing stuff that kids like now. So we have like a parking pass, sports pass, a JBL flip speaker, a smart TV, half off on prom tickets, a mini fridge with drinks in it, digital camera, and then a free item from the White Hawk store. And then pickup is this Friday for the Stuff the Bus, so that's where you kind of write the check out by the north doors and do that, and then take a picture with the Student Senate. Coming up in a couple weeks, George Pettit and Susie Marth are going to be running for MAHS, which is the Minnesota Honors Society, Association of Honor Society, and then MASC, the Student Council Society. So it's a one-state convention at Hidden High School, and they'll be running for state positions, so that could be in the form of president, vice president, secretary, all those. So those would be a great spot if they're able to get that. And then the prom location was revealed today, so that's always a big deal. So it will be at Gale Woods, and I believe it's May 3rd, I think. And I'm not sure on the theme yet, but I know they're probably gonna tell us soon, and they've been hinting at it on the Instagram. So yeah, that's what's up with Student Senate. We've been busy, and yep. And then for DECA, I believe it was last weekend, not this weekend, but last weekend. We went to state, which was at the Hyatt downtown, and I don't have the exact numbers of how many we're sending to ICDC, but I know even with our virtual business challenge, which was before state, we were sending like 20-something kids. So that was awesome. Some notable things from the DECA is special shout out to Mr. Wagner. He was named the MN DECA Rookie Marketing Teacher of the Year. Got to go up on stage, got an award. And then as well, Lizzie Nash, she was appointed as the 2025-2026 Vice President of Communications for MN DECA, and I believe that's the position Stella holds right now, and I think Lizzie's getting it next year, so she had to run at DECA, got voted on, stuff like that. Letters of Love, they've been hard at work just making cards, having meetings. Rotary Club, I know they have a few scholarships open. You could probably talk on what they've been up to a little more than I can, but I know they have scholarships that are due in April, I believe, so.
Yeah, beginning of April.
Yep, beginning of April, and then Mr. Peterson said Math League, so they were at state today, which has been, I believe it was new last year, so they've been doing really good group of kids, and they placed 4th. And I know I was talking to Miss Paul, and she said there's a lot of private schools that are very good at it, so among the public schools, I think we're pretty good on that ranking. National Honor Society, they're doing the blood drive, I think on April 2nd, so students can donate, and it's a great opportunity for us to get hours. Tonka Bots, they were in Duluth 2 weekends ago, and they're gonna be heading to Worlds again, which is super awesome. I do not understand the scoring at all of how those robots are working, but if they go to Worlds, that's great. I know they were there last year and they had a good time, so hopefully this year will be great too. On February 14th, Student Senate and Unified Club, we held a co-op event on Valentine's Day. It was called Unified Through Love, so it was just bridging the gap between our special ed students and our general education students, and it was a fun event. I know we had a bunch of different clubs helping while also watching the basketball game. So yeah, and then Unified Club, we're now planning for our event. This morning we had a meeting, and we'll be doing an event in early April. FCA, they've been meeting, continuing to meet on Thursdays. And then on to athletics. So there's been a lot going on, a lot of seasons came to end. I know Jeff talked about it a little bit for boys wrestling, so we sent Cole Munster Tiger, Philip Piserchuk, Deacon Rantham, and Cooper Rowe to the individuals in state. Cooper Rowe, obviously he won it, and then Cole, Philip, and Deacon, they all, I don't know, fought hard. I don't believe any of them placed, but they did pretty good. Boys and girls basketball, they both ended their seasons in losses to Benilde, which is kind of a bummer, but some notable things. So Max Cry, he broke the all-time record for girls and boys in the Benilde game. And then Max, he also committed to St. Olaf in the past month. Isaac Odd, he committed to St. John's for baseball. And then back to girls basketball, they ended their season 11-16. Boys ended the season with 19-9. Boys hockey, they lost to Delano and ended their season 11-15. Girls hockey lost to Orono in, I believe, the section final, and ended with a 17-11 record. And then dance team, they competed at state and were finalists in kick and jazz. And yeah, Mr. Peterson said there was also, for looking ahead, there was a lot of spring sports practicing today. We did some throwing in baseball. I know track and field, they were out there doing running and stuff like that. So we're on to the next season, and it should be a good one. For arts, we have March is Youth Art Month and Music in Our Schools Month. And to celebrate the Westonka Fine Arts Hall of Fame, we're going to invite nominations for individuals who've made a significant contribution to the fine arts in the Westonka community. Categories can include alumni, directors, teachers, advisors, and volunteers, administrators. With nominations, they'll be due May 1st. On to academics, so the Wings Up Award, I talked about it, I believe, a meeting or two ago, but it's basically students showing a lot of growth in the classroom, leadership, all those different forms. So for the visual arts department, which was a group selected in the past couple of weeks, 8th grader Genevieve Fossler, 9th grader Tyler Dakari, 10th grader Miles Remington, 11th grader Chloe Patterson, and senior Kira Martin. They were all selected for this award, which is one person per grade within a given department in the school, and the teachers select them. And then lastly, onto the Westonka update. I mean, many of you guys probably know this, but the high school renovation groundbreaking, that'll be on April 3rd at 4 p.m. It's very exciting. And then the juniors, I think they're taking the ACT on Thursday, and I believe the sophomores do the pre-ACT, I think. I'm not sure, but I don't believe I have school, so. And then seniors have been hard at work completing the Westonka scholarship application, which is due this Friday, and I believe scholarship night is like middle of May sometime. So, yeah, that's a lot going on, and do you guys have any questions?
Is the Stuff the Bus ongoing right now, or is that over?
Yeah, so it's ongoing right now. So we have tables set up at lunch, and this year we got online paying methods, which has been very helpful. So kids just go to the table at lunch and pay, and then we give them tickets, and they get to put it in whatever prize they want, and then we pull from that, and whoever's name is chosen gets the prize. So, yep. Any other questions? Or all right.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. No
Good
problem.
job.
Thank you.
Move on to the finance report, Kathy.
So Kathy, right there, the PowerPoint icon, yeah, great, yep. Let's click that.
There we go.
And then just two over, yep.
Should have got my glasses. Good evening, board. I have just a real brief report tonight. The slide you can see is getting fuller. We take the enrollment on the first day of each month. And so this is the 6th of our 9 months. So this means we're more than 2/3 through the way of the school year. So it's the year's going quickly. Our enrollment as of March 1st was 2,407 students, which was exactly what we had the month prior. So again, just taking your eyes and looking across, we're again very pleased with the constant and solid enrollment each month. It again makes budgeting very easy. Revenue and expenditures through February 28th. We have collected $18,912,000 or 45.1% of our revised budgeted revenues, which are $41,942,000. Expenditures through the end of the month are $23,885,000 or 58% of our revised budget of $41,208,000. Both revenue and expenditures are trending appropriately compared to the prior years. Just a few other notes. Again, we're working on the adopted budget, which we'll be bringing forth at the June meeting. And as Gary mentioned earlier, we will be having a finance committee meeting on April 3rd to review our progress and how our assumptions are stacking up. That's all I have for you tonight. Any questions? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Move on to teaching and learning. Mark?
All right, there we go. So I hope to continue with some really good news tonight on many fronts, and it's good to see everybody again. It is that time of the season where we hear more and more about tournament results, competitions, and I would emphasize when you hear about the Mount Westonka High School math week, second year in a row going to state, that is something that is quite new for us. And to think about, as we heard tonight, there's really a lot of private high schools that compete heavily, that we're right in the mix. That's great news, to see that. But first I'm gonna start three small updates tonight. It is the time of the year when it's spring. that state testing is here. The window has opened for state testing. We are just finishing up what is the access testing, and that is for our English learner students, and they have their own assessment around speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And then the MCAs start, and actually next week we start our first MCA at Grandview. Grandview traditionally offers the science test before spring break, and so it's one less test for them to worry about after spring break. And what I want to point out tonight is that the MCA science test is a new MCA 4 test, and I'll show that to you in just a minute here. But I just want to remind the board, the state testing, we were very blessed to have high performance by our students. And also, I always remind community members, it's a reflection of our schools, for our community, for individuals that live here, that when you send your students to Westonka, they're going to get a fine education. So it's just one way that we measure that. And so that is all going to be happening. The second arrow shows you the window for testing. The majority of our MCAs now will be done after spring break in late April into May. And then we typically get the state testing results back in July, the formal results. What will be different this year with the MCA 4 science, that will not come back to us until October. They'll be at the state, whatever they do to calibrate scores and to look at things. But what I want to point out to you tonight with an MCA 4, this is the new generation of state tests. Next year, spring 2026, it'll be MCA 4 reading. And then in spring 2028, there'll be a gap, will be MCA 4 math. All these assessments are going to what I would call inquiry-based. And what I mean by that is that, as you can see in the third diamond, the third bullet point, more open-ended questions, higher level questioning, less of memorizing facts, but truly taking scenarios like this graphic over here on the right side, and then studying visuals, passages, answering questions on the right side. And now they're starting to bring back open-ended questioning. It's called constructive response. So back 12 years ago, someone was actually reading those and scoring those. And you know exactly how it's being done now. It's AI. So this will be a new piece ushered in with MCA 4s, where there'll be open-ended questions. Those will be quite higher level questions for kids to answer. And so when we have prepared for this test, when we get the results back, we have to be careful not to compare to the MCA 3, but to understand and learn what our students' strengths are and our gaps. And right now, we know the benchmarks that will be assessed. We don't know the level or the details around them. No one does. That's, the state tells us, these are the topics that will be assessed, these are the type of questions, and I think in this first year, they calibrate themselves over the summer what the skill scores will be. So come next fall, I'll have a lot more to say with you about the results and how we perform. All right, so moving on from there, just again, just the timeline. In 24-25, it's Science MCA 4, and then in 2026 is the Reading MCA 4, and you'll notice that there's also something called the alternate MCA. We have right now what's called MTAS that we use for special education students. The alternate MCA is the next generation of that assessment, also that ushers in with the MCA 4s. So we are prepared, we are set. Training's going on now as we speak in all our buildings for these assessments. And again, I have full confidence that we're going to have a very successful year with the results. And again, we'll have those sometime this summer, usually in July. The other update I wanted to share with you tonight is you hear about the READ Act, you hear about READ Act 2.0, there might be a READ Act 3.0 depending on what happens at the legislature. But one of the things that you'll be coming across your table here possibly next month or In May will be a READ Act MOU, Memo of Understanding. And this is all around the allocation the state gave to pay teachers to complete their training, the required training. So we're working with Westonka Education Minnesota on those stipends and details around that. And they'll be taking a vote here shortly on that. And then once they're done voting, it'll come to the board for you to take a vote. And then that goes into the teacher's contract. Just a reminder, number 2, there are 3 different trainings that are going on. There's early letters, that is for our preschool staff. There's letters, this is a 2-year training that some of our elementary teachers elected to complete. And then there's core online language literacy academy, and we have elementary teachers, middle school, and K-12 special education teachers that are completing that training. The good news with all this training is what they're learning, and then compared to what and how they're teaching literacy and reading in the classroom is aligning very, very well. That's great to hear. That's the science of reading coming through. That is affirming that the direction, the approach that we do with our learning around literacy is spot on with this training and the direction the state wants us to go. There'll be training number 3, training for phase 2 teachers, which is basically our high school English staff. And then we're waiting to hear about training for paraprofessionals. And again, the state is a little bit delayed with those details and getting that done. But those would be the last of our groups of employees that need to be trained with the READ Act. So things are going well with that.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
What is Westonka Education Minnesota, what are they voting on? Is there like a range of stipends? How are
Yeah,
they?
so we've negotiated a set of stipends for those that complete their early letters, the letters training, and core. Each of those training programs have different hours of training, so the stipends will look a little bit different. We put in different parameters of what a teacher has to do to earn the stipend. For example, complete the training at a certain level of proficiency. So those are the things that you'll see in that MOU. And then we put a timeline on that, a deadline to complete that.
So you're putting forth your proposal for how you think it should look, and they're voting on whether that's acceptable?
We negotiated one.
It's already been negotiated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you'll see is what has been negotiated between the district and the union. Yeah. Okay. The last update I have here tonight, the work continues with high school remodeling, and again, my focus is really on the programming and making sure we have staffing, the programming, the equipment for all these programs that you are aware of. The latest updates is just the last couple weeks I've been to Hennepin Tech and Crown College looking at their programming around EMR, EMT, and it's always about figuring out how to build relationships with different people, different individuals, entities that can support our programming. On Wednesday, Dale Kimball and I are going to be visiting Sartell High School, and then we'll have a Zoom call with Owatonna, and that's going to be focusing on their, very much I could call it gold standard construction programs. And that's going to help Mr. Kimball really fine tune what he's going to be doing here for our we're converting our woods programming into construction. So we'll be doing that on Wednesday, and then comes right around that is the curriculum development. And then we continue the work, the formal work of filling out applications that have formal career tech education programs that are certified with the Department of Ed. So it is a process. It is something that it doesn't happen overnight, but you continue to work on this chunk by chunk, step by step, so we're ready to go in fall of 2026. And everything's on target, and it's kind of like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. It's just a lot of little pieces, but it's going fine, and we'll continue to give you updates here.
I want to compliment Mark. He's very methodical of how he goes about his work, and it's really enjoyable watching him, because it's like a gear that just click, and you just keep on going. But when you talk about the initiatives that were taken in machining, in our nursing programs, and then also construction trades. He didn't just do it with the source in mind. He engaged the community, he engaged local businesses, he engaged higher education, he engaged the Department of Education, he engaged with Hennepin Tech, and really looked for resources from understanding what our curriculum's gonna be to what equipment we need, what are effective, authentic relationships to make this really grow for our kids, how can this best positively impact our community. So when he talks about different gears, there's a lot of gears. This isn't a small, how can we get something in our course catalog? It's really been a focus of high quality and then making sure that we build and design space that really shows maximum benefit. And I think he's done a phenomenal job, as he's been assisted by Jolene and others, but Mark's leadership has really shown great through this whole process.
So more to come, more to come, we're gonna get there, we're gonna get to the finish line. All right, I can't end without sharing a little bit of celebration. I was up there in Duluth for a part of this event, and all I can say is, how could there be drama in robotics? But there was. I mean, they go through 8 different competitions. In the middle of these 8, the robot died. Like, completely was flat on its back. And I thought, this is it, it's time to go home. I mean, there's no way it could recover, and they recovered. And it was absolutely stellar. You know, it's like Connor Rowe, here it is, 2nd time in a row. They took the whole thing up there, and they were going to Worlds in the middle of April. And I can't be more proud of this team. And we're 48 strong. And again, I've said it many times, for some kids, this is what they do. This is their sport. This is who they are. And it's such a great thing that we can offer a program like this, that maybe you're not in athletics, maybe you're not a musician, but you're into robotics. And that is gonna further them into whatever they're gonna do after high school. So I come tonight, I just wanna show you just a very quick video. You get a snap of the energy and what happened up there in Duluth. That is a Mr. Kimball master. So that robot, they designed that from scratch to get to this level.
It's fast.
It's very fast.
Is there any footage anywhere of where, like, when it was out of commission and what they did to
There
get it
probably
back?
is, but it's probably something they just want to bury.
Okay. I was curious how they got back.
And it was sheer persistence and grit to really figure out what went wrong, and then really perform at the highest levels in the competition
Wow.
to pull it off. So
One great spirit of robotics that you don't see in all competitive activities is there is a culture that exists where schools that you're competing against, when you break down, all teams try to help that team get their bot going again.
Wow.
And so I think when we broke down, Becker was one of the school districts that came in and problem solved with us to try to get it up and going again, correct?
Great.
Yes.
And so it's really a neat culture that exists, that truly competitive. You can see this is intense. And yet when you're off, everybody wants the teams to be at their best. And so you try to help them so they can operate.
Wow.
And I think how they've thought through and created such a culture has such great learning for anyone, coaches and students alike. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And, you know, the nice thing this year, so there's 43 boys and there's 5 girls this year.
Great.
That's the most
Yeah.
number of females we've had, and we continue to promote that. It's not just for the boys.
Yeah.
And so
Great.
that'll be more of emphasis. So, middle of April, we'll hear more about Worlds, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Move on to the superintendent's report, Kevin.
Yes, so, several things. First of all, we continue to work through our design planning, and we have groundbreaking at the high school on April 3rd, 4 o'clock up at the high school. Invite the community to take part of this special event. And with groundbreaking, people are gonna notice already at that time over our spring break, we are going to be setting up our fencing, and we start prep for construction right over our spring break. And so we expect in the month of April, there's some things that all need to come together, one of which is weather. But we will be going in April, and then we're gonna be seeing this construction project all the way through fall of 2026. So it's gonna be a really exciting time for our students, for our community, for our families. And it's like what Mark was highlighting here today with the new programming that we're gonna have. We're gonna have a facility that is safer for our students. We're gonna have a facility that has space that's been right-sized and built intentionally for the purpose of which we're educating our kids. And so we've talked about this and we planned for this, and both from how to prioritize the projects to present to our community, to presenting it to our community, to then designing the space. And we're at that stage where shovels are gonna be put into the dirt, and we're gonna start this for our community. So really excited about that.
Is it too early to ask about final surface on the tennis courts?
Again,
Line of sight to
weather
that?
weather related, but we really hope, and I guess that hope isn't a strategy, but give me something that works better with weather. But when weather does cooperate, we know we're in the queue with Peterson Company, who's gonna put that surface on. And so we have the ribbon cutting May 21st. And so it definitely has to happen by then, but where in between there, as soon as we get a stretch of weather. Tennis will be using the 6 southern tennis courts, and we will be using the 6 northern courts. The 3 southern courts we're gonna be using for construction. And so that's one thing that we've worked out with the coaches, and I think everyone's eager for them to be in that new space. Grandview's also this summer, and so that's a summer slam, and we're excited about that work as well. In your action items today, you have a couple which are the acceptance of some work scopes, and those are 2 cleaning work scopes, one at Grandview and one at the high school. Those have been competitively bid out by that scope, and they have passed the background that's required to be considered. You have an approval of a kitchen assistant position at Shirley Hills and at Grandview. Again, want to compliment our food service director, who worked very hard over COVID of adjusting staffing, and we've continued to adjust up to meals being served. That program is going very well. You have a list of items to be sold at auction. There was a little bit of a joke by one of our principals that said, Kevin, there's there's a projector, and we're talking about transparency projector that's being sold, and she was
Oh,
talking
jeez.
about my level of technology, and I said, I know how to operate that well. I can do in-service.
Transparency,
Yep.
transparency.
Yeah, how to do that, yeah. But there is some items that we're not using, and so we'll put that on an online bid auction, which has worked well for us. And then you get into a list of items where you're gonna see some addition and reductions. And in our February meeting, we called out that we were gonna meet a budget goal of 100,000 reduction, and that allows us to stay aligned with our budget. It also helps us prioritize how we work with not just staffing, but just our overall operations, and we pay attention. I think it gives us the right energy to really evaluate how dollars are spent. Again, we try to encourage any staff member, community member that has ideas how we can be more efficient. We take all that input, but we challenge our administrative team particularly of making sure that we do that well. You'll see that there's a little bit of change of FTE, and as I would acknowledge that this is smaller, some smaller changes are bigger impacts of different staff, and so I wanna honor that, and also say when we do smaller continual adjustments, hopefully it prevents larger, more critical adjustments. And so you're gonna see this is largely built on enrollment and how people registered for classes. And so that is what makes up your list there. Lastly, we are replacing our district network switches. This comes at a time where it works out well with our high school remodel and our Grandview project, where some of that work is already being changed with wiring and detaching, attaching, and so it works out well there. It also works that with technology, as we have gone, our current switches cannot fully work with our computers. They would be held back from what the capacity of our network is, and so this allows it to be more fully utilized. And so the timing of that is good. And so for action items, that's what we have before you today. I would just end my comments. I always find February, March to be a really fun time because you have a lot of different individuals that are competing and teams that are competing, and you kind of get in those months of February, March where you're looking for that kind of engagement because well, today is a gorgeous day, but sometimes the days are a little bit dark, and then all of a sudden you hear these bright spots of student success and engagement, and it's really, really exciting. So it's been a really nice winter. Kids have done well. Proud of our staff.
Chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We'll move on to the action item. Chair moves for approval of action item 8A, acceptance of the bid and approval of contract awards for ISD 277 Grandview Middle School security improvements and deferred maintenance. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8B, acceptance of bid and approval of contract awards for ISD 277 Non-Westonka High School addition and renovations, Part 3. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8C, approval of adding a kitchen assistant 1 position at Shirley Hills Primary School and a kitchen assistant 1 position at Grandview Middle School. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8D, approval of items to be sold at auction. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8E, approval of position elimination, reductions, and additions and increases for school year 2026. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Fiscal year.
Then the chair moves for approval of action item 8F, approval of replacing district network switches and wireless. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any other business to come before the board here tonight? If not, the chair moves for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.